What if the guilt you feel after setting a boundary isn't proof that you did something wrong, but proof that you demonstrated to yourself that your needs are valid? If you're new here, welcome to the coaching sessions, my friend. I'm David, and this is a place where we have honest conversations about what it takes to stop playing the supporting role in your own life. And if you're a gay man who has spent years being the steady one, the reliable one, or the one that everybody leans on, you're in the right place. As a mindset coach, I help gay men go from feeling like second best or somebody's maybe and powerless in their own lives to standing taller, feeling confident in their actions and decisions and relationships without shrinking, editing who they are, or people pleasing to keep everybody else comfortable. Now, if that sounds like a journey you want to stay close to, you can subscribe and tap like so you can hear about new sessions as they land. Now, I notice this all the time with the men that I work with. They started setting boundaries, but then it starts to feel uncomfortable. Maybe you've been there too. You finally do it. You set the boundary. Maybe you've told your mum you're not coming to a family gathering this year, or maybe you've told a mate that you can't be his emergency therapist at midnight anymore. Maybe you've just said no to covering somebody's shift at work. And for about 5 minutes, you probably feel really good, really proud, like you finally stood up for yourself. But then the response comes back, whether it's a text or a phone call. It's short, it's cold, maybe it's long and guilt trippy. And suddenly that pride evaporates. And now you're the one who feels like the bad guy. You're lying in bed at 2 a.m., replaying the conversation, wondering if you were too harsh or you should have just said yes, or you've damaged the relationship permanently. And that knot in your chest, that anxiety, it doesn't untie easily, does it? So here's what I notice with my clients inside of my coaching community. One of my new clients might set a boundary for the first time in years, and the moment somebody pushes back, he's already drafting an apology text in his head. He's not even waiting to see if there's any issues, but he's already convinced himself he's destroyed the relationship. What if that's training rather than intuition? And right now, you might be exhausted. And I'm talking about the frustration that can come from constantly operating against your own grain, forcing things to flow when they don't really fit that well. You might be tired of being the one who always bends, the one who always accommodates, the one who everyone can rely on because you never let them down. You might have started to realize that keeping everybody else happy meant keeping yourself small. You set that boundary, a meaningful one, and then the guilt floods in because you feel like you've committed a crime. So here's what could be happening underneath the surface. You might have two parts of yourself in conflict, in battle with each other. One part, let's call it the integrity part, knows that you need boundaries. This part is done with the people pleasing. It's the part that sets the boundary in the first place, and it felt that initial rush of pride. But then there's the other part, the safety part, the part that might be terrified. It's the part that learned early on that keeping the peace equals staying connected and keeping everybody else happy. If people are upset, you're at risk. The part floods you with the guilt as soon as somebody reacts badly. Now, as I mentioned, these two parts might be at war, and the guilt you feel, that could be the battlefield of the emotions to stop you from settling anymore. But here's what I've learned, both from my own life as a people pleaser and from working with men who've walked this exact path. What if that guilt that you feel isn't intuition? What if it's your conscience telling you that you've done something wrong, even though you haven't? What if it is conditioning? And the thing to think about is when people get mad at your boundary, it's because they benefited from you having none in the first place. Let me say that again, and I want you to pay attention to this. Their upset might be about what they've lost access to rather than what you did. And you didn't do anything wrong, my friend. You simply started putting limits in a place that no longer serves your energy, your spirit, your heart, your soul, and you've done exactly the right thing. Think about it this way. Imagine you've been getting free coffee from the same cafe for years. You didn't pay a penny. Every morning you walk in, they hand you the coffee, you smile, you leave, no charge. Then one day they ask you to pay. You'd be a bit annoyed, wouldn't you? You'd be like, hang on, Where's my free coffee? Though paying for coffee is what everybody else does, you got used to getting it for free. And that's what might be happening when somebody reacts badly and childish towards your boundary. They're upset because they've become accustomed to you having none and being available 24/7. Your availability, your flexibility, your willingness to drop everything, those things have been their free coffee up to this point. And now, by putting in boundaries, you're asking them to pay. That moment when you ask them to pay, that's when you finally pay yourself back for the energy that you spent trying to keep the peace. So here's what this changes. When you understand that their anger might be about their loss rather than your wrongdoing, the guilt can start to lose its grip because you realize their disappointment might be evidence of how one sided things have been up to this point. And rather than evidence that you've failed them, it's evidence that you're starting to stand up for yourself. What if you weren't being kind by having no boundaries? What if you were just being available? And there's a difference there. Kindness includes that to yourself, and a lack of clear boundaries can start to erase everything that you are. That guilt that you might be carrying, that is the old script talking, the one that taught you to keep the peace, and it's more important to do that than keeping yourself intact. The one that said love means always saying yes. The one that convinced you that if people are upset with you, you must have done something wrong. Now, what if that script is outdated? What if it's keeping you trapped in the position and the pattern that drains you? So, what do you do when you set a boundary and the guilt floods in? I've got 3 specific techniques that I use with my clients inside of my coaching community that I'm going to share with you today. And the first one is to diffuse the inner critic. So I invite you to pause instead of reacting or immediately apologizing or backtracking for setting a boundary. Just notice the voice in your head, the one that's saying you were too harsh or you've ruined everything. Whose voice is that? Pay attention. Listen to it carefully. Does it sound like you, or does it sound like somebody from your past, whether it was a parent, a teacher, somebody who trained you to prioritize their comfort over your well being? Now, here's what I'd like to offer you. Take that voice and change how it sounds. Turn the volume down. Imagine reaching for a dial and slowly turning it down from 10 to a 5 to a 2. Or change the tone. This is a good one. Make it sound ridiculous. Give it a cartoon voice, something like Mickey Mouse, just a teeny tiny little voice. And hear it say that you've damaged the relationship, for example, in that silly, high pitched voice. Notice what happens. The fear might start to dissipate because you realize it's just a sound. The second technique is to stack your resourceful states. So now you've turned down the critic, you can bring in a stronger, more resourceful state. Think of a time when you felt completely grounded. Maybe it was after a great workout, or a moment when you stood up for somebody that you loved, or a time when you knew deep in your bones that you were doing the right thing. Feel it and notice where it is in your body. Is it your chest, your shoulders, arms, legs? Now think of another time when you felt determined, unshakable, like no one could knock you off course. Stack that feeling on top of the first one. And let's add one more. Think of a time when you felt proud of yourself, when you knew that you were living in your integrity. Stack that too. Add it up. Now you've got a powerful combination of grounded, determined, and proud. And that's the state you might want to access next time somebody reacts badly to your boundary. The final technique is to test the new state. So here's how you're going to know that it's working. Imagine right now you've just set a boundary. You've sent the text, you've had the phone call, written the email, whatever that looks like. And now you might be waiting for their response. The phone buzzes, you could open it, it's short, cold, maybe passive aggressive. Notice what happens in your body. Now, if you've done this work, you might find that you don't spiral. You might feel that the stacked state of grounded, determined, and proud makes you feel a bit more centered. And you're just noticing, well, they're just adjusting. That's their problem. That's their work. And that's what we're aiming for. Now, I want you to imagine what it might feel like 6 months from now when you can say no without the guilt trip, without the spiral. When you set a limit and your nervous system can stay calm. When you get the cold text back, and instead of panicking, you just think, well, their anger at my boundary might just be grief over losing their advantage. And when you access the stacked state of grounded, determined, and proud, and you feel it in your body, you stand taller. You realize that this is what genuine, calm confidence feels like. When you know that somebody else's disappointment might just be proof that you're done abandoning yourself, it starts to wake everything up. And that's what could be waiting for you on the other side of this work. Remember, their anger at your boundary might just be grief over losing their advantage. That's the line that I want you to carry with you this week. Write it down, say it out loud, let it sink in, whatever works for you. Now, learning to set boundaries without the guilt can eventually start to feel simple, but doing it alone with people around you pushing back, it might not feel as simple. So if you want to be in a space with other men who are learning how to do this exact work, men who are learning to hold boundaries without apologizing for it and build lives where they're no longer shrinking to fit, the door to my coaching space, the Freedom Community, is open and ready for you, my friend. This is where I work through these internal conflicts with you, where I guide you through these techniques until they become second nature. And this is where I give you the tools to take clear, confident action. And this is the space that I've built for this work. And in my practice, you get that support. The link is in the description below, and I invite you to come and take a look. Until next time, remember, you might just be done being everybody else's yes man. I shall see you in the next video. Take care and be well.